Welcome to SUSD Spotlight, your go-to source for all things happening within the district. Whether it's celebrating student and staff achievements, delving into trending education topics, or highlighting inspiring human interest stories, we've got you covered. Join us as we illuminate the incredible endeavors taking place in our schools and forge connections within our community. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and engaged as we embark on this journey together, spotlighting the extraordinary in SUSD. Well, welcome to another edition of SUSD Spotlight. Today, we're excited to welcome in studio the new Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Heather Cruz. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, to get started, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey into the education profession.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll go back a ways. My grandmother and my aunt were both teachers, so I kind of grew up in and out of their classrooms. You know, when I finally became a teacher, doing grades was no big deal because I'd already done them for years. So, started like as a teacher, like most at the high school level, teaching both science and music, doing a lot of coaching, and then went to the middle school and really fell in love with middle school kids. From there, I was a middle school assistant principal and a principal. Had the chance to open up a brand new building and a brand new community. That was really a great thing that influenced my career. And then assistant superintendent, where I've spent really most of my years in teaching and learning. So I bring that lens of academics to human resources.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of those experiences. So I know you've been in a number of districts in the Valley. You've been in large unified school districts and K-8 school districts. What's the difference? What's similar? What have you learned in those different chairs and roles over time?
I will tell you that in a K-8 district, it's really wonderful being in that district. You see your kids go to a certain point, and then they go to the high school. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? So it really is my choice to be in a pre-K-12 comprehensive district where we have that influence over that entire vertical articulation for our kids.
And what excites you most about being here now in Scottsdale? You just joined us in July, so still relatively new, but I'm curious what excites you most.
I will tell you, I'm out doing school visits right now, walking campuses with our principals, and every time I go, I find just a new hidden gem in this district. I've always known and really appreciated the Scottsdale district, but to see it really front-facing and talking with kids and all of those things, it's really incredible what is done here for kids.
I'm curious how it compares to your experience in previous districts, because we hear so much about how difficult it is to recruit teachers in this environment, not just across Arizona, but across the nation. And how similar is it here in Scottsdale, if it is at all?
Well, having been in a number of different kinds of district, all the way from school-wide Title I and district-wide Title I districts to more affluent places, I will tell you that we have different challenges here. We do have a hard time recruiting some of those hard-to-fill positions, secondary math, science, foreign language, and, of course, special education is a challenge for everybody. However, we just have different challenges here. We don't always have trouble recruiting teachers, which is such a blessing here. It's amazing. That was one of the first things I talked with Alexis Wilson before I took the job. Like, okay, tell me where you're at with staffing. And she's like, that's really something you're going to love here, is that people want to be in Scottsdale. It's a destination district. And I can see why.
So when people think human resources, hiring staff, evaluating staff, those things come to mind. What other things are a part of your purview?
Well, lots of things are part of our purview. We like to look with a bigger lens, and again, looking at that academic lens, always looking at what's best for students and keeping that in the forefront. But also, what are the working conditions for our staff, and what keeps them here in Scottsdale? What makes them happy? What makes their joy come to life every single day? And also looking at people and their continued growth. Making sure we have lots of pathways for people to explore and continue to move through our organization, as well as just looking at lots of nuts and bolts and things behind the scenes so that people look at HR and say, oh, yeah, they have their act together. We're good.
Do you have a specific vision or target in mind, something that's really right there on the top of the heap of things that you have to do and manage that you're really focused on this year?
Well, it's focus is Dr. Menzel's favorite word. So we have several things we're focusing on. We're really starting to work on staffing already for the 25-26 school year, which is kind of crazy, right? We're not even at Thanksgiving. I met with our team today to review initial projections and numbers, et cetera. But we are really looking at implementing some big chunks this year. We had a large FLSA ruling from last year, which is the Federal Labor Standards Act. We have to make sure that we are compliant with that. So that's a big chunk. We have the City of Scottsdale audit, number 2, that we're looking at implementing all kinds of things that will make us better. And then we have a big classification study that we are getting ready to embark upon, which will really involve all of our staff across the district, which is the compendium to the compensation study that they completed last spring.
So when you think about the compensation study and what it takes to attract and retain talent, what are the biggest challenges to being able to achieve those objectives?
Well, everybody goes to money, first of all, right? And I will tell you, money's not always the biggest motivator for people. So again, looking at those working conditions and working in a place that's really a great place to be, that does the right thing, that's ethical, that really keeps kids in the forefront of our lens, is sometimes more of a motivator than money. Now, people have to be able to feed their families. They have to be able to pay their bills. So we want to make sure that we're also rewarding what we value with our staff.
Well, in Scottsdale, the board has approved through policy, working with various associations. We've got 4 employee groups that the board has recognized. And there's a process that we utilize to help develop those agreements called interest-based negotiations. Can you talk a little bit about what IBN is and how that helps build the kind of working condition environment that you just mentioned?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. We have kicked off our IBN process for this year and very excited to be working with all 4 of our associations. And really what that does is everybody comes to the table and it becomes a very collaborative experience. I think that some people look at associations and negotiations and are like, oh my gosh, I don't want any part of that. It actually makes our organization better.
And what are the different associations and the different groups represented?
Right. Let me go through those. We have our newly formed Scottsdale District Administrators Association. We have our Scottsdale Administrators Association. We have our Scottsdale Educator Association and our Scottsdale Support Professional Association. I'm sorry. I always mix those up.
SSPA, SEA, SAA,
yes.
SDAA. More acronyms.
More, yes. I mean, as if we didn't have enough.
And so working with them, you meet routinely to move the mission forward.
Absolutely. And so we have a district team and we have a team from each one of those associations. And we work together with a facilitator to help move all of those big chunks that they bring to the table and also that the district brings to the table, right? To work together and collaboratively to make everything better for all of our staff.
So if that wasn't enough work, this year we're also rolling out a new teacher evaluation tool. What's the role of HR in rolling out that new Danielson framework for teaching?
Yes. Well, they did some very heavy lifting last year with our teachers and our certified staff to bring that to bear this year. So this year is to help support all of the structural pieces behind the scenes for that, as well as some of the front-facing PD for our administrators. I know that it brings great anxiety sometimes both to our staff and our administrators to implement a new system. But everybody just needs to take a collective breath. We're all in this together, and we have supports in place to ensure that people are going to be successful.
And the evaluation of teachers is to improve professional practice. It's really not a gotcha kind of evaluation.
Always. We do have several other, I'll say, groups and roles within the certified realm that are not covered under the Danielson teacher framework. So we are working with those groups much like they did last year, to review Danielson frameworks, and hopefully to bring those forward to the board for them to use next year.
So we know we have many exceptional teachers in our classrooms, but sometimes there are staff who struggle. So what's the process and the role of HR if a staff member is really not performing up to expectations?
Well, we work with the district administrator or with the site administrator to craft some type of improvement. Our goal is always for people to improve. We want to keep people in our organization and make sure that they're performing to the best of their ability. So our role really is to help support that improvement plan process and ensure that it's really on both sides, right? It's never just on the teacher side, but it takes a great deal of work on the administration side as well to make those plans go.
And we talk a lot about elevating excellence, and it's our theme this year is to elevate excellence. And so when we coach teachers, not just in a fashion that is an evaluation, but rather an opportunity for professional growth, are there mentorships or other opportunities for teachers to connect and maybe think about what lies ahead?
Absolutely. We have mentor programs within the district, really both for our support professionals and our teachers and our administrators. So when somebody comes in and asks to give some coaching really coaching is a great opportunity for everybody. Dr. Menzel and I were just talking about this the other day. Our top-notch CEOs, our top-notch athletes, they all have individual coaches. It's not enough that they maybe have a coach for their team. They have individual and personal coaches, probably both for their sport or their skill and for their life. So I would welcome a coach and look at that as a very positive opportunity to be able to learn and grow.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in retaining our valuable staff?
I would say, and sometimes this isn't an answer everybody agrees with, but I would say communication is very, very difficult in a district of this size. We can throw all the money at you and all the different things, but people need to understand really the why behind decisions in an organization such as this size. And it's hard to get people to read things, and emails have become kind of, passé, right? People read things very quickly. So I would say communication, building relationships with people, and building trust.
Well, and we're quite spread out across, all of our schools and our different department locations. And so how do you go about building connections to keep that culture strong?
I would say every opportunity I get, anybody who reaches out to me, instead of sending an email, a lot of times I just pick up the phone and call, walking campuses, making sure I meet people and learn their names and realize find out what they do on their campus and how they support their campus, and then just try to make that connection again the next time I see them.
One of the things that we encounter from time to time is that a parent or a student might have a complaint or a concern about an individual staff member. What's the role of the Human Resources Department in investigating any complaints that might be brought forward?
Well, that is part of our role, and we do that. And a lot of times our staff members feel very let down or caught off guard by the district. Please know that we're here to support them as much as we do the parents throughout that entire process, and knowing that we just want to get to the bottom of whatever it is and fix it and move on.
So when you think about the future, what do you anticipate we'll see as improvements in the Human Resource Department in the next year, and what will success look like?
Well, gosh, that's not a loaded question at all, right? Well, we always look to things that are very front-facing. We know we've got a lot of work to do with the three things I mentioned earlier, so successfully implementing those, and that will manifest itself in job descriptions, classifications, our salary schedules and what those look like moving forward, as well as very successful staffing for our schools. As we look at that and move forward, it's somewhat a shot in the dark to staff this early in the year when we're looking at next year. So we hope to work on that continually with our administrators and our leaders to ensure that we have the right staff on their campuses. They have enough staff on their campuses, because at the end of the day, we're all here to serve the students that come to our buildings each day.
Well, that's a really important point.
I was just going to ask, is it the students that really drive the staffing model, or how is it determined what exactly the need is at the site?
Student enrollment drives all of those numbers, but it doesn't tell the entire story, right? So a school may be low in size with students, but they may have a lot of different programming. They may have a lot of self-contained special education programs. They may have specialty programs like our IB programs or our dual language programs. Those require extra staff to really make those go and to make those come alive for kids. So we need to make sure that we are also supporting that.
So as we wrap up our conversation, I always like to ask my guests if there is a particular teacher, or it can be multiple teachers, that have made a difference in your life, an impact that helped shape the path for you as you moved into this profession. We always want to elevate and celebrate the profession. We want to give you an opportunity to give a shout out to someone who might have made a difference in your life.
Well, I could probably talk about a number of them, but I will go to my high school band teacher. I was a music kid. I was in choir and band, have degrees in music, all of those things. He recognized something in me early on and gave me all kinds of different, just unique leadership opportunities and trusted me with a lot of things when I was in high school. And I just have never forgotten that.
I think those are important stories. You didn't tell us what instrument, though.
I played the flute and the piccolo.
Great.
I chose wisely when walking to school.
We need to know that when we put together the SUSD leadership band. I want to thank you for joining us today, Dr. Cruz, and welcome to the SUSD team as we work to elevate excellence together. And I want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in to this edition of SUSD Spotlight.
And I hope that you'll check out our website, susd.org, and pitch us ideas for future podcasts.